Good morning, everybody. I apologize for the late start. We had a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. Obviously, the computer has not had enough coffee, so we're going to jump in now. Don't know what the heck was going on, but welcome, everybody. This is Brian Caprice. I'm CEO of Keep Trading Simple, and this is the Monday morning market breakdown. First thing I want to say is, wow, did we have an awesome week last week? There were some major explosions that we talked about, especially dollar CAD. If you guys were looking at the markets, you saw dollar CAD just do some crazy movement, like 220 pips in one day. Just some crazy movement. Really excited last week, when we did our weekly wrap up, and so excited to kind of get into it this week. So make sure I'll go quick today, just to make sure we're kind of staying within the time guidelines. Just so you guys know, again, I'm CEO and president of Keep Trading Simple, and our mission is to simplify trading and remove a lot of the distractions that the professionals tell you that you have to have. Things like 12 different indicators and this fancy system of this, and we don't use any of that stuff. We basically follow price action. And again, price action works on all time frames, something very easy to do. As you guys can see, very busy guy. I've created a couple different courses, particularly Nadex based 30-minute trader for people that are on the go, 5-minute binary course for Forex traders that are coming across from the Forex market into the binary option market. I was with one of the big three banks. So a lot of times when I am looking at a chart or analyzing a chart, I'm kind of thinking behind the scenes about who's in this trade. And that's one thing I think a lot of traders don't actually look at. They're not thinking who's on the other side of it, because realize for you to buy something, somebody has to sell, and vice versa. If you're selling something and you want to get out of a trade, somebody has to buy it. So the one thing that, being in the advisory division for a little while, it definitely kind of helped me, not learn how to trade better, because they don't trade at all. It helped me kind of look and think about who's on the other side of my trades, who's taking those things. So that's definitely something that I focus on. All right. So with that being said, let me cover the disclaimer real quick. Trading on Nadex involves financial risk and may not be appropriate for all investors. The information presented here is for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Any trading decision that you make is solely your responsibility, and past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Nadex contracts are based on underlying asset classes, including Forex, stock index futures, and commodity futures. Now, trading can be volatile, and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. However, the design of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC. Now, my biggest thing that I love to point out every single week, and again, if you guys are new here, welcome. The fact that, again, Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction, very important to understand that, okay? It's one of the biggest things that drew me towards Nadex. It was one of the biggest things that I enjoyed about traditional options. But when you're selling traditional options, you lose that benefit. And with Nadex, you do not when you're going short, okay? If you guys have ever been out there, traded futures or even stocks, you guys know that you can get into some trouble if you start selling things and you don't understand it fully and don't know how to control it. Nadex takes a lot of that out there. So again, love that about Nadex. I can't highlight that enough, all right? So every week what we do is we break down the top 3 news events, okay? This week, I'm not gonna lie to you, this week is a little bit shy. And again, it's because it's the week before 4th of July. Next week we'll have even less. This is a week that a lot of people cut out early. They're trying to get the extra days, particularly where, the 4th of July is situated this year. It's always nice when it ends up on a weekend. When it's on a Tuesday, kind of makes it a little bit crazy. So most people will get Monday off. So it's like, if I leave this week, I can get an extra 2 or 3 days vacation. That works out good. So that's kind of where, what's going on. Number 1 this week is going to be, actually, I think that's the wrong day. Hold on. I think I typed it in and I switched it on you there. First one is going to be USD final GDP numbers, not GBP. That would be the Great Britain pound. So let me fix that right here, because that will drive me crazy. Whoops. Okay, GDP is a very important number. It's something that the president has been very focused on. A lot of campaign things came in. So it's a number that definitely, for lack of a better word, it's something that has his eye, has his attention, and it's pretty important when you have the president's eye. I think that'll have the potential this week as being probably the top market mover if that number comes in as a surprise. I honestly, I don't know if it will come in as a surprise. It's one of those ones that, if it is, it's going to be, basically 0.1 or, maybe 0.2 off. If it's a 0.2, that's a pretty big surprise. I don't think we'll quite go that far though. But again, like I said, has the potential to be a nice mover. again, I always like to focus on things that have that ability. So I think that's what we're going to look at. Actually, it is Thursday. It is correct. Sorry. And it's forecast actually to be a little bit higher. The previous was a 3.1, and it's forecast to be a 3.2. If you guys remember back, 3 is what supposedly you can't hit. It's not possible to hit 3, especially long term, and we've been maintaining that. So again, that's kind of the president's thing. We'll see if that number continues to drive it. And again, that's kind of a sign of economic health. Now, on Friday, we have the same thing in Canada, and Canada's is a little bit more important because theirs is obviously not as big as ours, much smaller. Theirs is expected to rise a little bit too, but we're talking about 1.5%. Again, not quite as large, but again, Canada can be a little bit touchy. And again, this Friday, there's not as much U.S. news to counterbalance any Canadian news that comes out. So that could be a big mover for the Canadian dollar pair. So definitely be something to look into. And again, I did it there too. Jeez. See, obviously the computer didn't have enough coffee, but neither did I today. Number 3 is going to be consumer confidence. So for those of you that aren't as well versed on news releases, consumer confidence is what they say is they call it a leading indicator. Okay, it's a leading indicator for what buyers are feeling. Basically households. Okay, it's a survey, and what they do is they go out there and they poll households and figure out what is their confidence in the overall economy? Because when people are more confident, they tend to spend more, which again, obviously that helps everybody out, okay? And again, it's considered a leading versus a, trailing. So again, that's what makes it pretty important. And again, Tuesday doesn't have a lot of news releases. It's actually pretty shy. It's, again, this entire week is kind of small. Again, what we'll do is I'll run through right now kind of what these things look like, all right? But those would be my top 3 for the week as far as what I think is going to move. Last week, all 3 were great. Not every week is going to be like that. And like I said, going into the July 4th week, this is kind of the week before, a lot of people are going to skate out early to get those 2 extra vacation days. All right. So for those of you that are looking for where you can find other news releases and just an overall great site, go to dailyfx.com. They have all kinds of things up here. For today, let's go over to the calendars and charts, go down to the economic calendar. First thing you got to do is filter this through, right? Go down, pick where you're at. I am in New York, Santiago, and Toronto. Go down and change your filters. And again, this is good practice if you guys are not used to doing this. I get rid of the Mexican peso, but I do leave Chinese up here. And the reason I do that is because Chinese news affects the New Zealand dollar as well as the Aussie dollar, okay? And a little bit, again, I guess right now, a little bit with the US, but not as much as you might assume, okay? Click off low, those are not important. Leave high and medium. Each site has their own kind of ranking. If you guys use other sites out there like a Forex Factory, the rankings may be slightly different, but at the end, they're all about the same. You can see Monday, no high releases at all. So it's actually a pretty, again, very, very small day for us, right? Not a whole lot out here. What that means is kind of listen to what the newscasters are saying for the day. That will kind of define the movement, particularly in pairs like the dollar yen. Going into, whoops, got to click weekly view. Going into Tuesday, okay, you can see Tuesday has a little bit more releases, a little bit of highs, and that's the consumer confidence number that we talked about. Again, it's supposed to be lower than what it was before, which is typically not good for the dollar. But again, this number is variable. Again, it's just based off of surveys. And again, they try to use it as a leading indicator. I think what's going to happen, though, is more eyes will be on Powell speaking. As you guys know, there is kind of drama back and forth with, can Powell be kicked out? Can he not be? But again, talking about, his economic outlook and monetary policy is important because when they mention rate hikes or a potential rate hike, that's what's going to set the markets off, okay? For those of you that are, keep up with this, if they mention a rate hike, which they're probably not going to do, that's bad for the overall stock market, okay? The market will, basically react to that. It'll go down, lending gets more expensive, things like that. That helps crash the market, okay? If they mention lowering the rate, which again, that's been up there, they're talking about maybe next time, maybe after that. But any talk about lowering rates is good for the stock market. Okay, it's not as good for the dollar, but it's good for the overall stock market. Okay, that will continue to keep this rally going higher. Okay, so anything that Powell says as far as interest rates go, definitely something to watch out for. If you guys are seeing that, all of a sudden the markets just jump, it's probably because Powell said something. Okay. Another thing too, not that we can trade it, the New Zealand number is always a great number for those of you that are Forex traders. Again, not expected to move, but rate hikes at night with New Zealand or Australia are great trades as well. Going into Wednesday, is probably the best day. There's multiple things to trade in there. You guys will see starts off early. Great Britain, Carney speaking. Again, there could be some fireworks there. Again, if he mentions anything about Brexit, yes, no, agreeing, not agreeing, there could be some movement there. Then you go down and you see some durable goods at 8:30. 8:30, you see advanced trade goods and durable goods. And unfortunately, the durable goods number is down. Okay. It's a negative number. Again, not necessarily the worst thing, especially if it's forecast and it comes in right at expectation. If you look at the trade balance actually is less than what it was before. That would be interesting to see that. Again, this is kind of, when you see this is what you hear about China. Okay, this is kind of a Chinese, what's the trade balance? Okay, well, what's going on with China type thing and tariffs and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what this number is. There may be kind of, after this number is released, there may be some responses back. There may be maybe some commentary back and forth. It'll be interesting to see what the different news outlets talk about on this one, or if there any of the professionals or the big guys are out there talking. Going down after that, you guys have oil numbers. Okay, you can trade oil, and again, it's considered a medium because this is more of a currency-based website. Oil has obviously been bouncing back and forth. Oil's at 57 right now, so again, definitely some oil trades. And again, that will also affect the dollar-CAD currency pair. But that'll be interesting to see. This would probably be one I'd look at this week, just because we're a little bit light on Forex. Going into Thursday, you can see this where the GDP number is, and again, it's expected to be at 3.2, which is 0.1 higher. Again, this is kind of the president's gauge of how well he's doing is what the GDP is doing. So again, keep an eye on this, and you'll see a bunch of other news at the same time. You'll see, continuing claims for jobless claims, initial, continuous, core. Pending home sales doesn't really affect the markets too much these days, unless the numbers are huge miss, but again, it's not normally. Going into Friday, again, holiday weekend. You're seeing, first day of the G20 summit, so it's first day, so we probably won't hear too much news out of it. You're going to see some CPI information for the Eurozone. If you are awake that early or staying up that late as you're a West Coaster, this is definitely something that's tradable, but because it's kind of it's a number, it's a news release, but again, going into Friday, you start to run out of steam on Friday. I would have to say this would probably be the number 4 for the Euro. As far as the top 3, this would be, if I did top 4, these would be included. Going a little bit lower, you see the CAD GDP number. And again, that is up there on Friday as the number 2 mover. You can see there is US, but it's not things that typically will counterbalance. Personal income, spending, even, PCE, not really things that can counterbalance a strong, CAD GDP number. So this would be kind of a pay I would definitely look for. All right. And then the rest of the day, we're just kind of out, and you can see we go into, second day of G20 and, going into 4th of July weekend. Again, I think the markets are just going to kind of flatline on us. But what that does is it gives us the ability to play some kind of, larger kind of weekly positions. So let's see, I was doing this quick. Let me make sure that the charts are all live. Yes, it looks like we are live here. All right, so let me bring these back, and in the process of trying to restart, it was kind of like, oh God, let's go real quick. All right, so a couple things to look out for. So first one is going to be the Aussie yen. Last week we had talked about, we had just seen this kind of big rally down. It had blown through our kind of target area, right? We were talking about this wick, if you remember, that this wick was giving us a lot of indecision, and it was either going to be good or was it going to be bad? And what we did is we found some orders down here, okay? Price had driven down last week, and we were right, see, last week was the 17th. We were right here, okay? So you can see from last week, this basically just flatlined. It didn't do a whole lot, right? It did drive lower on Tuesday and then came back up, and it's basically exactly where we started. Kind of ran out of steam. Okay, this is one of those pairs, again, didn't have as much movement, so you had to drop the lower time frames, okay? And again, this is kind of what we were worried about going into this large wick, all right? So where we are now, we talked about, here was the gap. If we ever got back up, we'd be looking to, get short there. It never did. It drove down. 17th would be right in here, okay? Here was the gap. It came back up. It went down again, and then just basically stopped at the same area, okay? And this week, there was really nothing. So when you see things like this is one of those things where you got to ask yourself, is it worth kind of forcing any trades in there? For me, in my eyes right now, this one is a no. I don't really have any great setups. I'm still looking for this 4-hour zone at the 75.60. To the downside, obviously we have some buyers down here at the 74 level. Until we can break that with some good confidence, it's just not something that I think is worth looking at right now, okay? Going down to little brother, Aussie dollar. Okay, Aussie dollar did have a bit of a rally back up again. It went down to its low and kind of rallied all the way back. Even on the 4-hour, you can see it picked up some steam, right? Some impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, all the way back up to this level of basing. Now, I would have liked if this came all the way back up to 69.92, but we didn't quite get there. So we're still kind of driving up there. But what you can see, if you guys look over here, you see this red line right here? There's a blue and a red. Those are marking off the anchor. You'll see this level right here, okay? This level of basing. This level of basing has kind of put a little bit of a kink in our movement, right? Okay, we didn't quite get all the way back up again because we're running into a level of basing, which shows us that there are sellers there, okay? When you have sellers like that, you always need to be a little cautious. We've pulled back since that time. Hasn't been tons, okay? We did drive lower last week, almost all the way through this piece, but you can see it's been a battle. Came down, it popped, needed more orders, pushed back down and drove just slightly lower, and is now pushed back up into an area of basing. So and this one's kind of wedged. This one I'd probably be more bearish versus the other one, which I was kind of neutral on. I definitely think we have, if it can find some orders up top, and again, a daily kind of selling zone is always is a nice area. This would be something I'd be a little bit more bearish towards. And again, when US traders come online, once those gold traders get in the markets and really start throwing some weight around on Monday, if they're there today, this could be where this one moves around, okay? And again, this is the kind of push up that we've seen last week, again, going with gold, all right? All right, dropping that down one lower. Let's see, let's go to Euro Pound, okay? Euro Pound, we talked last week about how we were at the upper end of this range, okay? The 17th was right here, this blue bar, okay? It would have been early in the morning, so we'd have been here. And what we talked about is if we got up into this top area, right, this top selling zone, we were definitely going to be more bearish, right? And that's where this basing level was that we saw on the daily, okay? Price did come up, right? It came up at the end of the 17th into the 18th. We hit and then we bounced back and we kind of pushed down, right? So we pulled back down, we went to this level of basing right here, and now we're starting to drive back up again. So we know there's some sellers just above where we are. You're looking at only about 20 pips of the top side. Again, this one has really been hinging upon, is Brexit going to be accepted? Is it not going to be accepted? What's it going to finally look like? Who's going to lead it in? Are they going to go to vacation first? It's one of those things. There's so much indecision. It dominated the markets for so long. There was so much pound weakness. It drove the euro all the way up. Not that the euro is in a great position, but the pound is just that much worse. It needs some direction, obviously, okay? Again, you guys can see over here where it gapped up into kind of this range and then drove, was pulled back down again. Actually, that was from back over here, all right? Now, looking at this even on a lower time frame, and again, 30-minute, you guys can see that, we're basically at the same area of selling. Price came up, it ran down, it grabbed this level here of basing, similar to what we saw in the last chart on the daily, right? Came back down, grabbed the level of basing, kind of went up and just flatlined, right? Ended up pushing higher, came back down, and again, we're just kind of stuck in the sideways movement. So only got a few hours left for this one. Unfortunately, without large, amounts of news, this pair doesn't tend to move as much. Let me check something real quick. Going into tomorrow, again, not really a lot of news on this one. All the news was early today, and it was, it was good for the European Union, but again, with a lack of news, there's not a much. Now, this would definitely be a pair to look at going into Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday, there is confidence numbers, there's mortgage applications, Carney speaking, there's loan purchases. So there is a lot. I think this pair will be definitely something you want to look at tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. Again, I say Wednesday morning because at the London Open is when all the news is going to be released. Right now, I'm definitely still more short biased. I would definitely have 88.80 marked off. That would be kind of the low here. That would be a trap for support and resistance traders, but we'll see if we can pick up some momentum and take that to the downside from that level. Going into Euro Yen. Let's see what that load. Euro Yen's kind of doing the same thing. This one is pushing up. We haven't had too much of a pullback, especially on the 4-hour. You can see going into the end of last week, this thing just drove straight up again. Now, once it got and cleared above these two highs, and again, this is a 4-hour chart on this bottom left, you guys will see we kind of have this like sawtooth here, right? A lot of small bodies, a lot of wicks up and down again, a little bit of basing, and that basing is right above where we are. I know it's a little bit harder to see sometimes here, but there's a green level of basing right there. And you can see we're basically right up to it. The level, and again, the angle again, I can make the angle not as much, but even though, even there, and it's very fast. This is a very, very sharp angle up, okay? Typically, when we see things like this, we're looking for a bit of a retrace. You can see there's not a lot of wicks on the bottom side. So again, this would be a pair very similar to the euro pound. I'm definitely a bit more bearish on the euro, okay? Again, euro numbers are coming in kind of Wednesday-ish time frame. But again, this also has the yen in there, which is also moved around by the US stock market. So definitely believe, I'm definitely more bearish on this one. I'd be looking for entries. I don't have an entry or even somewhat of a setup yet. I think we're going to make another push into this 122.40-ish range. And again, we got higher highs and lower lows here. So we're just basically sideways on the euro yen. I think we may have kind of a flat day, but definitely looking for a bit more movement, okay? We ended up breaking down, and that's what kind of initiated this pop on Friday. Not really a clear basing level until here. That's the true, which also coincides with it, obviously on the 4-hour, but that's what we're looking for. So we'll see if it can break through this level. For me, a trigger is going to be 122.40. If you guys do use technology, have it kind of set off an alert, 122.40 would be where I'm looking to get into this one, potentially the short side. And again, I want to look for, confirmation on the lower time frame. Jumping down to the euro dollar. Euro dollar had a monster couple days. You guys can see this. This is just, if you guys look at our measured moves when we were going to the downside, right? We hit multiple measured moves to the down, and this one kind of faulted at the very, very base. If you guys are looking to the top side now, you guys are seeing we're basically doing the same thing. Here is your upside, right? And boom, there is your next upside, which is just a little bit higher, which again, I think we can go back again. So same situation, kind of what we saw. Because this really had 4 days straight up, I mean, we were down in the 111.90 range. Again, anytime we crack that 112 into the 111, people are like, oh, is it, going to break 110 and then go to parity? I don't really think that the euro is that necessarily strong. I think a lot of it is reactionary to what we have going on in the dollar right now. I do not think the dollar is weak. I think a lot of the dollar posturing back and forth again is literally just posturing. I don't think it's that real. Not going to get into politics, but one thing that I think is happening is I don't actually believe that the trade war is real. I believe what they're talking about is important, but I don't think that I don't think the dispute is as bad as it is. I think it's basically just being kept around for elections, and I think it's going to drag out for a couple more months until we get closer to elections, and then all of a sudden, magically, it's going to be fixed in one day. So I don't believe that this is real. I don't believe this dollar weakness is real. I see this pushing up. It's going to have to find some sellers up top, but again, on 2 other charts, we've seen we're at the upper range of this. I don't believe the euro is the strongest country in the world right now. I think they have plenty of problems, and I think they will continue to have that. Definitely looking for a place to get short. We just don't have it. Even on the upper side, not really great stuff up top. No, there's not even any levels to just scream like, hey, if it gets here, we're going to sell. But I'm definitely looking for a pullback in this pair. The pullback on the daily would coincide with what we're looking for the 4-hour as well as the 30-minute. It's more of a bias, but you can see at this point, even our oscillators are they're flatlining. They're not doing a whole lot at this point, okay? Let's drop down and look at the pound yen, okay? So pound yen is starting to see a little bit of life. It kind of came down here and bounced, and now it's starting to push back up again. On the 4-hour, it gives us a little bit better of a picture. We came down, we started to form higher highs, right? Came to here, we ended up breaking down, and now it's just kind of stuck in kind of somewhat of a sideways pattern. Here is the same situation. Now, this one did not even break into the wick, okay? The same wick that we talked about in the Aussie yen, here's that same wick, right? This one didn't have as big of kind of an extended range target candle for us, and that's what it ran into. It literally broke this, got to this wick, and then kind of got nervous, right? Buyers stepped in and started to push this one back up into the 136 range. We were down into the 135.25, so about 150 pips from where we are now. We were down, and it's managed to rally back up again. This pair is one of those ones that can move. Its ATR is down to 92 right now. We're back in this Brexit, whether Brexit was going to be approved and not approved. This one had a daily ATR of 162. Okay, we are down to 92 right now because the candles are getting smaller. We're seeing the kind of the movement get sucked out of this one again, summertime and things like that. And again, because of everything going on with the pound, it's kind of sucked it out as well. So this pair is definitely down in movement, but it still has the power for large candles, large movement. It can rip off 200, so be careful. I don't really see a lot of catalysts unless on Wednesday Carney says something crazy. Again, we need to get out of kind of this basing level. You know, look at the 4-hour. We're kind of basing back and forth, basically here, right? Kind of top and bottom. Okay, we're bouncing top, top, bottom, top. Here's the bottom piece over here. We could extend it and make it kind of this a little here. Again, not a horrible range. You're talking about what? Still about 150 pips top to bottom. But again, if you're a channel trainer, you're definitely at the top side of this one, looking for this one to go short. The 30-minute obviously is kind of a wreck, right? It's just boom, boom, boom. It's just kind of sideways and really, really ugly on the lower time frames. But if you're looking for a weekly position, maybe you're looking at a weekly binary, maybe something out of the money, a little bit cheaper. You can take this to the downside. Again, there are other things to trade out there just besides binaries. You can look at spreads. You can also look at touch brackets, okay? This one definitely, though, for me, I'm feeling a little bit more of an out of the money binary to the downside. But again, use your risk, assessment, and again, place your trades accordingly on that one. But I'm leaning more towards that one right now. I need a little bit more confirmation on the smaller time frame. Pound dollar. Okay, pound dollar took that big bounce, kind of the same thing, but a little bit more exaggerated than what we saw from the pound yen. Pound yen, again, it kind of stopped in baseline. This one rallied back up again. Nice little rally too. I mean, basically 5 days are straight up. And this is kind of what we saw, very similar to the euro dollar. Again, euro dollar, pound dollar are always going to look very similar, although this one is still down. It's not up here on the chart. Again, this wick, it provided resistance about, or provided support about halfway through. Very nice rally too. I mean, look, up, correction, all the way up, correction, kind of went down, grabbed this level of basing. Here's your level of basing here, okay, right there. It came in, it grabbed it, and then used that as a catapult to the top side. So on the 4-hour, and then again, the daily, you guys can see we are somewhat at the top of this range, but it's already actually pushed through, and this is the 3rd or 4th attempt. I think this actually has the ability to go a bit higher. We're at 127.50 now. If you look at the daily, there's a little bit of a wick here, but I don't really see too much. If we can get a nice little pullback on the 4-hour, I think we could try to make an attempt up to this 129 area. I don't think that's out of the ordinary. We get some bad U.S. numbers this week, and it forces the dollar to go up, or they start talking about if Powell talks about we're going to hold off. We don't think we necessarily need a rate cut yet. We're not sure when we're going to do it. It's definitely not going to be next time, and he starts pushing that number off. That could definitely give us the boost that we need to get up to this 129 range. It's only about 150 pips. Okay, so not don't mind that one to the top side. Going down, looking at dollar CAD. Like I said, dollar CAD, I think this week we'll have a nice little kind of run, late in the week. Okay, we talked before, and you'll see the 17th was here. We talked about we were at this level of basing. If we got confirmation, and again, it just dropped like a rock. We went from 134 all the way down to 131.50. Huge week for this one, and again, it took it right off of that. Move this down. You guys see this level of basing right there? That's what we were talking about last week, right here. Okay, this was our little tiny doji candle, right? And we said we're right in the level of basing if we break through the bottom, and boom, we went all the way down. You guys can see we touched this bottom section as well. Again, they don't always work out like this, but this one literally worked out to the T. We talked about selling here, and it had the ability to go all the way down into the 111 or 131 range, and that's exactly what it did. It dropped all the way back down at the start of this move. Now, where we are now, if we can drive this lower and break this 131.28, yes, I see some potential to go at the bottom. But right now, we're kind of stuck, right? We have a kind of a lower high, and we're kind of, higher low, and a kind of it's a little bit of a higher high because it went higher than this, but not by much. So a little bit of basing. Wait till the traders come in. Again, it is Monday morning. We'll see where we can go with this one. If you start seeing some confirmation on this lower time frame, though, start breaking some of these levels in this area, and we get above this 132.30 range, we do have the ability to start going long again. So again, if we have some dollar strength come in with some of the news, or some, if that CAD GDP number is bad, we could definitely see this number rallying back up again, in which case we want to make sure that we look for this area. Whoops, not there, that area. Okay, that's the level of basing that we're looking for, up at 133.40 to 133.63-ish. Okay. Last but not least, the dollar yen. So if you guys see, we had that huge level of basing. So we got to the bottom here, right? We got to the bottom of that wick. This one is set up a little bit differently, and it kind of went over and went sideways. Okay, and we talked about if we could break through the bottom, it wouldn't be bad. We did. We broke through. We got just a little bit into this major wick over here, and then we ran into some problems. Came down, popped, came and got more orders, and now we're stabilized. This is one, obviously, we need the U.S. market open. At this point, it's all eyes on U.S. market. It did a textbook kind of pullback, right? It went back, it grabbed orders here and went lower, but then stopped. Okay, it was unable to make a lower low. It's making lower highs and higher lows. We are truly in a sideways pattern, so there's not a whole lot that we can do with this right now until we kind of get some momentum. And again, Monday morning makes complete sense. You guys can see the oscillator is basically flat. Last week we really did nothing until the last 2 days, and then it just, well, I guess Wednesday, Thursday just collapsed right through the bottom. So look for something similar. Like I said, not a big U.S. week. Especially later in the week, traders are going to be dumping out real quick to get to vacation early. So again, this is one you're definitely going to want to trade on the lower time frames, probably during market hours from probably like 9 to 12, and then maybe end of the day, the 3 to 4 time frame is where we're going to really see most of the movement in this pair this week. It is truly, I think, going to be stuck and mirrored to the stock market. So that's it for this week, guys. There's not as much in here. Again, shy news week, and I definitely like looking at news and kind of seeing where potential setups are going to go. Unfortunately, with a lot of volatility being sucked out because of summer, it's not giving us as many trade opportunities. But that doesn't mean there's not much, there isn't a lot on the lower time frames. Just as a reminder, make sure you go in there and look at your 2-hour binaries. A lot of these trade setups, particularly when I'm talking about smaller time frames, using maybe if you're a multiple time frame analysis person, go 4-hour, 30-minute, 5-minute. Okay, or use a 2-hour or 3-hour, and then 30-minute, 5-minute, and go down and look at your 2-hour binaries. There's some great trade setups on those things on the lower time frames. All right. So with that being said, we will not be around next week. Next week with everything going on, we decided that we would take a vacation week, but I will see you guys the weekend after that. If you guys have any questions for anything that I talked about today, don't hesitate to go over to the website. Give us a follow if you like, keeptradingsimple.com. You can get us on Instagram. The page is up there, and we put setups of kind of like, I would say kind of textbook examples of what we're looking for different pullbacks and things, as well as you're more than welcome to email me. You can find us on Discord as well. Go to the website, click on this Discord button. You'll gain access to our chat room, and that's also another easy way to get us. So everybody have a good week, and I will catch you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good 4th of July. Take care.